This is the high school. This is the high school I went to. Dave went to it. Prince Paul went to it. Pos went to it. Mase went to it. So, you know, this is the high school and I was doing banging on the tables, making beats, you know, doing all that good stuff. Yo, this is like, you know, the school where a lot of stuff happens. A lot of great talents came out of it, and this is why y'all hear the music this is our influence of the music and how it sounds. This is where it all starts, yo.
So, fellas, tell us a little bit about yourselves.
President preaching about the on-tech, known for the new step, stop and take a bow. Amityville, resident supported by the speaker view. Wanna feel it in your shoe? Let me show you how.
I was in 12th, Dave was in 11th, Pos was in 10th, and Mase was in 9th. I'm a nerd, and I get that, and I accept that. But I was like, these guys are really nerdy. Probably with the exception of Mase. Mase was always like the I'll beat you up type kind of guy. Real nice, but you don't mess with him. But those guys kind of seeing him, I was like, man, they're like ultra nerdy like me, and you rhyme? I told them what I can do and what I thought of them and how we could work together. It was perfect. It's like an act of God, almost. Like we were meant to be in the same place at the same time with the same thoughts. How do these guys come together in a place like Amityville, Long Island, to make this record? You know what I'm saying? With my weird personality and their quirkiness, how do we come together? Like, it's just, it's indescribable to me. Like, it freaks me out sometimes, but I'd really put some thought into it.
If you have a creative mind, you could basically use anything. For example, I could take a record such as a basic Disneyland Mickey Mouse record, for example. Now, people may not believe it, but if you look at these old records, you could find things like drum beats on them. It's hard to believe, though.
Paul was just a really dope DJ from the neighborhood and well-respected and actually really appreciated and loved. He was just a really kind dude who just loved hip-hop and had great skills. So once he, as a Long Island guy out of Amityville, gets connected with these Brooklyn guys called Sonic, it just put that much more fire amongst everyone in the neighborhood. Like, wow, Paul made it. Outside of just knowing Paul and seeing him do parties, it was really Mase who linked with him, because Mase as well was just DJing.
Yeah, Paul and I, we had a natural progression behind DJing around the neighborhood. And I always told him I had some stuff I'd like for him to hear. Everybody used to bombard him with that. One day he came up to the school, we went to my house, got these tapes, and I played him the stuff, and he was like, yo, I need to have a meeting with y'all. He said, I can't make any promises, but we'll take this to the studio, and we'll clean all of this up.
A lot of stuff what you would hear is probably the main, because we call main loop, this loop, that loop, would probably be the main loop. So whatever we would hear in the demos was always like the main thing. And my thing was like, yo, I can really make this sexy. And they respected that, and you could hear the difference.
Plug one, plug two, plug one, plug two, plug one, plug two, plug one. Answering any other service, prerogative, praise positively, I'm acquitted.
I first heard of De La Soul when I got a call from Daddy-O from Sonic, and he told me that Prince Paul was working with this group called De La Soul. He said, you know, it's kind of ill, it's kind of different sounding, da-da-da. I'm like, well, bring it in, I want to hear it. Sure enough, he brought me plug tuning and freedom of speak. First of all, I was like, this sounds like it was mixed with like sand and dirt. It was like so dusted sounding, and it was so different.
When I heard De La Soul the first time, I remember saying, you know, this is gonna do nothing or it's gonna be really big. Because when you listen to it, it was so bizarre compared to anything out. And whether it did something or didn't do something, we loved it, and we thought it was important that it came out.
I thought they were pretty fantastic. And I had a meeting with them. They came in, they said, like, well, my name's Posdnuos, which is sop sound backwards.
Posdnuos. Pos is backwards for sop, and Dnuos is backwards for sound. Sop, sound.
My name is Trugoy, which is yogurt spelled backwards.
Trugoy the Dove. Trugoy is yogurt backwards.
And then Mase, which was the most normal of the bunch of them.
And Mase actually means making a soul effort.
And they had, you know, these unusual haircuts, and their style was completely antithetical to the prevailing aesthetic of hip-hop at the time, which was much more driven by black leather and gold chains and such. They were definitely like these introverted, nerdy guys that were very cool.
Mirror, mirror on the wall, tell me, mirror, what is wrong? Can it be my de la clothes, or is it just my de la soul? What I do ain't make-believe. People say I sit and try, but when it comes to being de la, it's just me, myself, and I.
It was clear pretty early on that this was a group that was album-bound. I had hired a young gun A&R guy. His name is Dante Ross. I think the first project I may have assigned him was working with De La Soul.
Well, 1, I was broke. 2, I was hungry. 3, I was 2 steps out of like the streets, so I was a pretty wild kid back then. My daily routine was I usually came in hungover, bearing a firearm, and probably sold some weed to a couple of people during the day out of my office, which was a converted mailroom. I didn't have a stereo, I had a boom box. That's what I listened to everything on. Between selling weed and trying to follow up on all the girls I tried to kick it to the night before when I was drunk, I listened to some demos, and producers came and saw me, and et cetera, et cetera. Then the other thing was that De La, Monica Lynch played it for me when she was interviewing me for the job and said, we're thinking about signing this. And I said, that's great, you should sign that. And the rest is history. She signed it, and I got the job, and she said, here's your first project.
I just like things that aren't normal. I like shit to the left of everything. I don't like normal rap. I like something that stands out, this is different. That itself doesn't have to try and have like a fake image, something that comes from my heart.
Hello, Prince Paul's the name. You know, the DJ for Stetsasonic and the producer of this particular group. And now off of that and on to the soul. De La, that is. If you take 3 glasses of water and put food coloring in them, you have many different colors, but it's still the same old water. Make the connection, and now back to our video.
You know, 3 Feet High and Rising kind of was a stage for us being kids, having a good time out of high school, being jerks, being silly.
Even with Paul being involved, like, he could lend to the zaniness, and he can also help tap into your strengths and allow you not to be afraid, especially in those early albums, to use them. I mean, like, even Dave has always been so creative, and sometimes he would be like, but I don't know about this, but Paul would be like, no, do it.
Look, I push for creativity and to everybody to be involved, and I think a lot of it had to do with me being with Stetsasonic. I remember feeling somewhat limited, like, one, because I was the youngest in the group, so it was like, hey, I want to, so it's almost like when you get older and you say, when I have my family, we're gonna go to eat ice cream for dinner, and we're gonna do, and I'm gonna break all these rules. And that's where that was the release for De La for me, was all the things I couldn't do in Stetsasonic, I'm gonna allow these guys to do, and in the process of me doing this, I'm gonna teach them what I know.
He would make me sit at the board and mix. Like, Mase, touch the buttons, man. A mentor I had prior to him would never let me touch the board, and he saw that, because we worked with the same person. And he was like, man, I was like, yo, they don't let me touch anything in the studio, you know what I mean? He was like, touch it, man. He's like, look at each channel on that board like your radio station in your car. He gave me that simplistic outlook of each channel on the board. He said, obviously there's more stuff, but start right here. First you get your record, your rare groove or whatever sound that you choose to sample. Just, you know, try not to sample nothing that's gonna get you sued. To get your level. Sample is caught. You go to edit sample. And proceed to edit your sample to where you want to start it at. And there you have it.
Quelle heure est-il?
When Tommy Boy had Planet Rock, we got sued by Kraftwerk for a publishing sample on that. And I sort of overreacted, and I hired, like, the third employee was a lawyer to protect me and so that we would always be able to clear samples. And we asked the producers to tell us what samples were on there, and the artists, and normally they did. With 3 Feet High and Rising, they didn't tell us one, because, you know, they have a lot of those little, what they call bug-out pieces, little interstitial skits. There was a tiny little sample that was slowed down from 45 to 33, and it was the Turtles from You Showed Me. And we got sued by them. It was $100,000 for that little bit, which we would have just left it off if we had known, but we didn't even know that was on there, and they figured nobody would care.
It is still infringement as far as we're concerned, and they have violated our exclusive rights in the sound recording.
Greetings, girl, and welcome to my world of phrasing right up to bat. It's the daisy age, and you're about to walk top stage, so wipe your lottos on the mat.
They came out brand new, slam, and everybody accepted them, you know? So I think they're gonna, start a new trend, and they're gonna be around for a while.
It's the type of contemporary sound that we need today.
It ain't the same old like all the stories go. And believe that, De La Soul, yo, your niggas got complete mic control.
I saw that it spoke to lots of different people. Right away I saw that. My friends from downtown loved them. But then the hood guys liked them. We did shows up in the Bronx at Skate Key and shit like that. We did Irving Plaza, Payday, and everyone loved, that was their first show they ever did. Yeah, and they had the girls with the cue cards and the baskets and their boy Granny who danced, and everyone loved them. DMC was there and he was telling them how great they were and they should go on again, and they said, we only got 2 songs, we can't go on again. And Fat Five Freddy was there and Corey Robbins, but then all my downtown friends were there too, and they were like, yo, they're amazing. Like, that's the best shit ever. And I realized that I was onto something, that something was happening. It's one of the few times in my life I realized I was in the middle of something that potentially was great.
You could tell these 3 guys were really ghetto, but they definitely were hip, and they had an interesting style. And there was an intelligence that you could just kind of sense.
I have to say, in New York, people caught on to it pretty quickly because it was cool and different, and it started bubbling up from the clubs pretty quickly, and Red Alert and Magic and the other key DJs on the radio.
Red Alert was known for breaking records. There was lots of records I identify as Red Alert records. And he was the DJ at the Quarters on Friday night. And the Latin Quarters was a mythical place. It was hyper violent and dangerous. And I had the honor of taking that record because they knew I knew Red, and I hit Red with the record, and Red played it right away.
Crowd Latin Quarters was like, they will let you know what they believe in, what they feel for. They looked up to me, because the booth was up top, and they turned around and looked at me, and like, yo, and I just kept on playing.
Are you the new hippies?
We don't mind when people say that we're hippies. We just don't appreciate when people claim that we're trying to do it just to sell records and just to get people interested. Everything we do is made up out of our personalities. So if our sound has a hippie-like sound, then I guess that's what it has.
But do you feel a hippie yourself? You're wearing a peace sign.
Yeah, I'm wearing a peace sign, but that doesn't represent the fact that I'm being a hippie. I mean, everyone wants peace and harmony in the world, so I guess that's why we deal with the peace sign.
I think people expected De La Soul to be these loving, flower power, soul children, and there was a lot of testing happening on the road. People, thinking that, we could step on these little guys, these kids, and even to the extent of even sometimes it felt like that with management, tour, labels. They want to test them Long Island kids who had flowers in their pictures.
I boxed a little bit. People didn't know that. People who can fight don't talk about fighting.
Yeah, for real.
They would definitely go and knuckle up, if people tried to test them, particularly Mase. They were young black men, and they had to deal with all the things that come with being a young black man, and they were being marketed in a way that they felt, I think, was emasculating in a sense, and led them to be stereotyped in a way that could potentially question their blackness.
Random people would come up to me and like, yo, you know, your boys out on the road, I heard they beat up such and such. I'm like, what? And they shot up a car, and I'd hear all these different stories that people would come up because they knew obviously I work with them. I'm like, what? That's crazy. And I would ask them, they're like, yeah, it's true.
I like to call them the hippies of hip-hop.
I think for me, it was just the photo shoots. I mean, every damn photo shoot, you could bet there was a florist hanging around with flowers. I mean, and it was just like, come on, man, like, flowers, that's not what it's really about. I can understand what it stands for, I can understand the connection and everything, but like, yo, we're beyond that. We're really doing this seriously because we love the music. And that's what got horrible, like, seeing them damn daisies everywhere we went.
The in a sound y'all, and that's Daisy. D-A would be said like the, I is inner, S is sound, and Y is y'all. So, I mean, showing daisies with just a visual thing as far as the word daisy itself. It really had nothing to do with being hippies in the 60s and stuff.
De La Soul had blown up with 3 Feet High and Rising. For them, whether it was on the road or dealing with other people, you know, they kind of got pushed back and understandably decided to make a huge statement about it and say De La Soul is dead.
I was really disappointed. Honestly, I was really disappointed because I didn't think they should be apologizing for who they were and what they were saying. This was the time when hip-hop went really hardcore. And it was cool to be a gangster. And De La was anything but a gangster. They were from Long Island. Nobody ever thought they were a gangster. No one really cared about that. Really, to say De La Soul is dead really was a reaction. They wanted to bury that image that they had built and was working for them. And I thought it was unfortunate, you know, because, I mean, De La Soul is Dead was a good record. There was a few records in there that were apologetic, and I don't really think an artist should ever have to apologize.
Yo, De La is dead, word. We ain't doing shit no more. Let me tell you.
Yo, like, you can't say that. You can't say De La Soul is dead.
Yeah,
like,
that was a big thing.
That, you know, like...
Saying that.
Just saying that is like planting the seed that you're dead. Like, you're not worth what you are.
We was having a good time joking around and sticking to our stupidity. De La Soul is Dead was a joke.
As Dave was saying, the title just came from us being up at our management, Rush Management at the time, and they would have this board with all the different groups on the board and showing where each group was going, where they had to appear. And Dave just walked up to the you know, the board and took the little eraser and erased all of our dates off and wrote De La Soul is Dead. And then we all started dying laughing. You know, like, cause he was just tired of like, yo, I want to stay home. I don't want to go out on the road. But that in that very moment, it resonated with us like, yo, this could be a dope album title. And it just all started from there.
Back once more with the wall up in the score. Smash about a riff shit and make it rock your hip. Revival of the roller boogie and a rhythm shit to make you think about the time we spoke fun instead of
De La Soul is Dead basically captured our experience in the industry. Being on tour, having this regiment and this schedule and frustration as well.
So when you listen to the second record, it's a little bitter in a lot of ways, especially if you compare it to the first one, you know, because they live life now. You gotta understand, like, you know, we had the first single, the second single, all of a sudden it's like, bam, like things just went full steam ahead, and me on the outside looking in, they weren't really prepared for that. I mean, we'd go down the street and kids were like, oh, we'd chase them, and we'd have to run in the stores, you know, people making promises, you know, music industry people, hey, how you doing? The record's not doing good, hey, you know, I'm not messing with you. So they got to see a lot of things, you know, a lot of phoniness, a lot of this, a lot of that, so it made them a little kind of like,
They smartly said, reset. Boom. And they continued to make amazing music.
Mercy. Mercy. Ego trip. Ego trip. Mercy. Ego trip. Ego trip. Mercy.
hip-hop was starting to become materialistic. Puffy changed the structure of hip-hop was the culture of hip-hop. He made hip-hop more flashy. He made hip-hop a shiny suit you put on, where before that it was come as you are. I don't care you got holes in your pants or holes in your sneakers, we'll take you like that.
Yo, whether it was Puff, whether it was whoever, what y'all doing is dope. But don't act like you're the most amazing producer because you're looping up something, because it's too easy to do.
For those who are really doing it, we're really doing it, you know? For the ones that were trying to follow a trend because of the person who's really doing it, you know, they thinking that's how they gotta do it to now be a part of what they think the people wanna see and hear. And some people got offended, but respected it at the same time.
We don't really say too much about it, but you know, we monitor everybody out there who's basically getting on that level of, I guess, becoming a rapper. Whether you become an actor, whatever, you know, you can't lose grounds with that. You know, that's something that De La has never done. We never really lost grounds with the people who we feel are equal, and we are equal to everybody else, you know what I'm saying? There's no statuses, no nothing like that, no ego tripping, nothing like that. But, you know, some people lose it, and it's misfortunate, but in time, somebody will bring them down a level.
We really didn't even know where we stood in the industry. You know, we had just came out of making this album that I will say, which is Balloon Mind State, which funny enough has become an album that a lot of people will come up to us today and be like, when y'all put that out then, I didn't get it. I didn't know what y'all was talking about. And now as I've gotten and grown up, this has become one of my favorite albums. So then to have, you know, Tribe put out this phenomenal album, Wu-Tang come out, Big, everyone, and then we had this really jazzy album that stood on its own. Going into the touring of that album and being on tour with Tribe, and Leor's backstage while Tribe was on ripping it, and he's saying like, hey, tighten your belts, fellas, because this album didn't do shit.
About to get rough.
About to get rough
for you guys.
You know, and it was, you know, God Bless the Dead, Dave's cousin was like, yeah, man, like, yo, stakes is high for y'all. Like, that album obviously became the first album where the title was there before we started recording.
Stakes is high, literally what the name of the album was, yo, this is our last go-around. If we don't make this happen, this is it for us. So there was a lot of pressure on them. You want to do you, but then again, now you don't want to get lost. And my thing was always like, us being us got us here. You know what I'm saying? And so don't stress it. Let's just always do us and we'll be fine. Like, we started working on Stakes is High together in my house. They might tell you different, but I remember we was in my house, and I could tell you the story clearly. We was listening to it. It was a hi-hat on one of the songs. You know, I had, you know, computer and ADAT set up in my house. And it was a little off, but it was funky. You know, I was like, it's fun with the track. And me, I'm always like, if it feels right, it's right, you know? And, you know, I remember debating, no, it needs to be more on, you know, on the grid, and blah, 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 tap, tap. I was like, no, but it works. So we're debating on little things now. Me being a little, I wouldn't say stubborn, but kind of like, you know, maybe we should end this now because we're still friends. Because if we continue to work, we're not gonna see eye to eye. You know, it was a tough moment for me, man. 'Cause it was like, my identity is with De La Soul. My beginnings are with Stetsasonic, but my identity has always been with De La Soul. So it was a tough decision for me to say, yo, F it.
One of those amazing qualities that Paul brings is the zaniness. And this was the first album where we knew that the title was called Stakes is High. This was gonna be pretty much our Marvin Gaye, what's going on. Wasn't no time for zaniness. And so we were coming across like, creatively like, nah, that's not gonna work.
As immature and as childish as I acted, I was very aware of the value of friendships, you know what I'm saying, and art. You know, I'm always art first. So how can I argue with these guys about a hi-hat and all this other stuff, but not let them express themselves? You know, it's going against art's for art's sake. You know, so, you know, it's what you want to do. I'm not going to step on your toes.
Rap in the 90s. It's creative, it's candid, it's controversial. But how much does the music dictate real life? And how much does real life dictate the music? Today on the show, we have rappers De La Soul to discuss the many ways to keep it real.
This album had a lot more boom bap to it. They started to work with Jay Dilla, rest in peace. Haas would talk about Jay all the time to me, and he put a lot of people on to his production.
production, the records they're sampling, choruses, the melodicness. Dave sings a lot on it.
That Common was on a track, Mos Def was on a track.
I could never ever say I discovered Mos Def. I think Mos Def revealed himself to me. Well, he was already studying music theory and all that, and the acting was happening for him since he was a child, and he could have totally gone that way. We came along and was he felt like we was life-changing for him, especially growing up in Brooklyn and being different.
Most will say that to this day. He wasn't fucking with hip-hop until he fucked with De La.
I love that album. Like, I wish my son was here because he was a baby, like, I don't know, maybe like 4 years old back then, but we used to listen to that record nonstop. Ironically, right, it should be the record like, oh, these guys, but it's like probably my favorite De La record out of all the records.
Stated. Stakes is high. You know them stakes is high. You talking about
I think that, you know, throughout their career, and we're sitting here in 2016, they've had to make a lot of decisions. Artistic decisions, commercial decisions, big career decisions. I mean, I don't want to say I can't believe, but I'm like astounded by just everything that they've accomplished in 27 years. I think a lot of acts look at De La Soul and say, how can I do that?
Their fan base is a fan base that grew with them and stayed with them. To tour the world without a record. And they've been doing this for, what, 25 years straight? The only reason they have it like that, I feel, is because they stay true to themselves.
New album is entitled And the Anonymous Nobody. I mean, this record was definitely not the norm for us. And the worst thing would have been having a corporation, an executive over our heads, you know, policing everything we did. I mean, we have songs on this album that are 5 minutes long, and there's no lyrics or rhymes until the last 40 seconds. So we needed freedom to release a record that was just totally the way we wanted it to be. So we tried the Kickstarter. You know, we thought, okay, let's see if our fans would be gracious enough to support and believe in our project. It didn't matter if we just reached our goal, 110,000, what we was shooting for, or landed where we obviously landed at 600,000 and change. It was just good seeing every day somebody coming in and saying, I believe in this. I mean, of course, overwhelming that we raised that type of money and had so much cash to work with to record this record, but at the end of the day, those 11,000 people are like, they saved our lives, you know? They kind of like gave us this boost in confidence to say, yeah, you know, you guys are still wanted out there. You still can do this.
Don't walk out there with
I think the staying power just attests to how great it is. You know what I'm saying? And yo, come on, they crowdsourced over $500,000.
They're touring the world. They've got a great new album coming out. Critics be damned.
I donated.
Did you?
Of course.
Wow, okay.
I'm a fan still, you know?
If there were no De La Soul, there would be no Kendrick. De La Soul always pushed the button before it was time to push it.
I mean, De La Soul to me is, you know, probably the greatest rap group of all time.
She had me in Starbucks, sipping Frappuccino. I want to grind on that coffee bean. A couple of cups of that Joe is a bad pep. She'll be swinging on chandeliers.